Thank you. That's quite a bio. I'm not even sure that's me. I'm really happy to be here today, to be at the IDE Festival for Think Big and Act Small. And I was here one time before. And last time I was here, I told a story about the transformative power of taking action. I told a story about a program called Upshift, which is where I've done a lot of work with UNICEF in Vietnam. That program helps a lot of young entrepreneurs, young people, marginalized young people, look at their community, look at the issues that they face, and take action on them in entrepreneurial ways. So I'm really glad to see there's a lot of young entrepreneurs here. Before I really begin, are any of you under 24 years old? Who's under 24? I don't think so, Jay. Okay, there's a few people. I'm not sure about you either. So this is the age group that I deal with. So last time I told you about Upshift. At that time, there was about 2 to 3 countries that were doing Upshift. We were focused on skill building and entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship for marginalized and disadvantaged and disabled youth. Today, at last check, Upshift is now a kind of systematic approach for UNICEF to develop youth skills, teach them how to adapt to their community, be social innovators, and be social entrepreneurs. At last check, there's now 26 countries that are either implementing or thinking of implementing Upshift. That's Thailand included. Now, Upshift itself is a self-contained product, but it has inspired some global work that UNICEF is now starting on to do youth empowerment and skilling up across the globe. So I want to go from that story about taking action to now the transformative power of, the transformative potential of youth. But first, what is transformative? I hope this works. Technology, everyone. Is this not working? Next slide. There we go. So last year, when I used the word in my presentation, I kind of thought I made it up, so I had to look it up. And actually, there is a definition. It means causing or able to cause an important and lasting change in someone or something. And this is really important to what I'm about to tell you, so I want you to keep it in mind. Important, which means life-changing, and lasting, which means it's not just when you're in the program, it's not just 3 months later, it changes and it keeps you changing, keeps you advancing. This is really important to what I want to share. Right now, these youth I'm talking about, 10 to 24 years old, there's 1.8 billion people in this age group worldwide. Okay? So for everyone in the room, we're going to take a big global approach. We're thinking big. Okay? Global. We're not in one country, we're all around the world. 1.8 billion people in this age range. That's more than ever before in the history of the world. That's a big statement, but this is kind of obvious because there's more people in the world than ever before, so it makes sense. But what's interesting is they're growing faster than the cohort from 0 to 9 years old as well. So 8.3% growth between 2018 and 2030. That means there's more than ever, and there's more coming into that cohort than ever before as well. So there's a lot of movement for youth. And that is why I want to talk about the future of work, since we're here talking about it with MIT as well. They say, this is the World Economic Forum data, they say that 65% of children entering primary school right now will work in jobs that don't currently exist. 1 billion young people will enter the global labor market in the next 10 years. And 9 out of 10 of new work opportunities in developing economies will be in the informal sector. These are incredible numbers, right? We have young kids who literally cannot know what job they will do when they grow up because it may not exist yet. We have young people, 1 billion more of them coming in for jobs. And we have people who need jobs, who need good work, being in the informal sector, which means gig economy, it means maybe undocumented, maybe no benefits. We've heard a lot of these issues today with all our teams here. A lot of them are working in this area. This is a big area, this is an important area. Back to those jobs. I said that 65% of them for youth or children entering primary school have a job that doesn't exist. If you take a broader view of that, 85% of jobs overall have not yet been invited. This is by 2030. That's from the Institute of the Future for Dell Technologies. So these are research studies that are going on. Now, doom and gloom and drama is what I'm spouting, right? This is probably the point where you think I'm going to come in and talk about Industrial Revolution 4.0 and how technology is taking these jobs away. But I'm not going to do that. Because as we've heard today, technology is an enabler, it's a tool, and there's lots of potential out there in this world. But we have to find out where can we invest in these youth to deal with jobs that we don't know what they are, to deal with managers who are managing jobs and work that have never existed before. So it's not just people needing skills to work in the jobs, we need to be able to manage them as well. So this is the way that I look at things. Now, in my work with UNICEF, I've seen how governments and the UN and other organizations invest in youth, invest in children. From 0 to 5, we invest in survival. We invest in health, we invest in vaccines, we invest in the parents, we invest in early childhood development to make that child be able to reach their cognitive potential. From a macro level, from a global level, that means that when that child grows up, they can contribute productively to the economy. This is what the investment is for. As we get older, as we get to 10 plus, into the adolescent range, that investment changes. We don't invest into health as much. We don't invest into development of sorts of the same way. But we do have to invest in the youth themselves. If we do not invest in them, the outcomes will be much worse, right? So in the work with UNICEF at the global level, we're looking at a few areas on that. We look at investing in secondary education. How does that evolve over time? We look at quality education for the future, skill development, a lot of these issues that we've heard about already today. And we look at empowerment for girls and every gender, of course. So the question that I want to ask is, what exactly are we investing in this area? We just talked about 3 priority areas, but that's already still very broad. So I told you as I talk about potential. So we're investing in the potential of youth. So how do we make this investment? I went and I looked, how do we define potential in humans? So we're looking at human resource development now. I looked at one definition of human potential for corporates. Adaptability, drive, cognitive abilities, intrapersonal, and interpersonal. So I was looking at this, I was reading the categories, reading through this paper. Openness to learning, change, flexibility, innovation, desire to lead, discipline to follow through, dealing with complexity. This sounds like a great employee, potentially a great person to lead a team. But what struck me is, this is also a very similar definition as I would give an entrepreneur, right? Innovative, creative, driven, constantly learning, constantly adapting, right? Being empathetic with others, understanding your market means a person-to-person connection, understanding what they need. So what I saw is we want to invest in the potential of youth, but then when we define potential, we actually are looking, to me, a lot like we're investing in entrepreneurial skill sets for youth. So then the question for me is not, how are we investing? Not where we are investing, right? We invest in schools, we invest out of schools, we invest in technology. These things all make sense to me. The question is, how do we combine them with having all these young people who have an uncertain future and they need to approach it? So to me, I have a very simple equation that I think we can look at together when we design our projects for young people, when we design our businesses. What are we investing in? How are we investing? I want to see us invest in entrepreneurial skill sets. Not everyone is going to be an entrepreneur, but everyone can deliver on what their goals are, like an entrepreneur would. Be driven, adapt to change, take what the world gives you and make the best out of it. Because we don't know what the future will bring, but we know you're going to have to be skilled in order to do it. So we take youth, we have entrepreneurial skills, we bring them together, and we have important and lasting change. And that is transformative. Thank you.